You're listening to For the Republic, a love letter to Star Wars animation.
Hello there.
All right, everyone, welcome to our recap of Chapter 21 of The Mandalorian here on For the Republic. Can't say the full title of the show still because I am still very upset over the Bad Batch. So if you haven't seen the Bad Batch, I won't bring too much up, although my name still kind of says that. So oops.
Yeah.
But
if you're watching on video, it's kind of a giveaway what happened.
Oops. But yeah, let's just say I'm upset with the animation department right now. Don and Andrew are back here to talk about The Pirate. This was directed by Peter Ramsey, who was one of the minds that brought us Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse. And I think I've discovered that the man is incapable of making anything that isn't just like awesome. Because this episode ruled. This episode ruled. We were like, because I don't remember how much we were talking about the presence of Dorian Shard and his group of pirates in the first episode of the season. But if anyone was like worried that like they were just going to introduce them and then never show up again, this episode proved that wrong, because there were those rumors that the pirate crew was going to be a factor into Skeleton Crew. I'm not sure how much of that is true after this episode with what happens to the Loch Ness Swamp Thing pirate man himself. But
unless it's a prequel, then yeah, I could see them fitting in. But otherwise, not so much. I mean, there is like one person from that faction that could potentially make a cameo, and that is Vane. Yeah. So like, because he did peace out because he's a little bitch boy. He had to he's like, oh, the Mandalorian has outwitted us. I must flee like the coward I am. So I feel like he could potentially appear in Skeleton Crew. It'd be kind of cool if he was like a sort of minor grunt character who kept popping up in the shows, kind of like the character Turk in the Netflix Marvel shows. He always kept popping up in all of them, regardless of like which character it was focusing on. So yeah, that would be interesting.
That would be pretty cool if like he is like the connecting point with a lot of these Mandoverse shows. But we definitely got some connections to one of the shows that we know is coming this year, and a connection to one of the old animated projects as well, because I lost my mind when we got there. But we start off on Nevarro. We catch back up with the High Magistrate himself, Grief Karga. I don't remember if we saw his cape droids in this episode or not, though. So maybe we have to take some points away, because those are my favorite. Like we did see the Anzellans again, though. So
it's gonna be okay.
Oh, I loved them so much. But
they're great.
We see like Dorian Shard's like, what can we call it? Just like their
Corsair ship. They refer to it as a Corsair, so let's go ahead and call it that. I think it's based on concept art, on artwork from the Dark Empire comics, because there was like an Imperial cruiser from Legends that looked very similar with the kind of like curved like kind of hook hammer like front that we see here. But like, yeah, it's a cool
really
looking ship.
Cool looking ship. I will agree with you there. So yeah, we see that, and this is basically the retaliation for Grief and Din just getting them out of Nevarro earlier. They invade the planet. They say this is under our control now, and they just start attacking the city. And this was kind of sad to see with how much we've seen Nevarro as like a city and an environment grow throughout these first 3 seasons, of seeing it where it started in season 1 and now just seeing it kind of flourishing in season 3. For it to just get bombarded and attacked and taken over by these pirates was upset. So we see Grief try to contact the New Republic. And I do find it kind of odd that his first thought was not to contact Din and to contact the New Republic first, especially if we were just going to get to the point where Carson Teva was going to recruit Din to help out here. I feel like he would have trusted Mando more than the New Republic, which, as Grief pointed out in this episode, and as we've seen repeatedly throughout this season, are not the best.
Yeah, we're seeing a continuation for sure of what we saw in the Convert, of like the political kind of ramifications of like the New Republic being stretched so thin and so quickly having to slide into like compromise and, you know, a little bit of corruption, because like we see, you know, it's interesting the way the kind of nuanced approach they take with it, because like, you know, one could see it as something of a consequence for Grief having to like insisting that Nevarro should be an independent world, because what do you know, the New Republic doesn't prioritize that shit, because they've got all these member worlds calling out for assistance, which sucks. And it just kind of like, it's an interesting situation, because like, yeah, he probably should have registered, like joined the New Republic with Nevarro, but at the end of the day, we're seeing how stretched thin they are. They are, to quote a certain character who shows up in a few minutes, swamped.
Yeah. And you can also make a reference there to what's his name, Gorian Shard, because he looks
Gorian Shard. Yeah,
he looks like a swamp.
Yeah, and because like that's the thing, I loved that Grief tried to bluff his way out of it, and Gorian Shard was like, "Oh, Nevarro is an independent world. This isn't Sabak."
Exactly.
It was very Force Awakens, you know, like with Bola Teak and Kosu Leach calling Han Solo out and saying, "Oh, there's." I've got to do the Scottish accent. There's no one in the galaxy left for you to swindle. It's got to do it. Every time there's a Scottish accent.
When was the first time? I love that scene.
I love Chewie's little nod as well in that scene. How he's just like, it's like, no, it was like, this has happened twice.
God.
Oh, it's brilliant.
I think I got to rewatch The Force Awakens now.
Yeah.
I pointed out on Twitter how crazy it's going to be that if 2025 is the next time we get a celebration, and the rumors are true that they're skipping 2024, it's going to be crazy, because it'll be our first celebration in 2 years, but also the 10-year anniversary of The Force Awakens, the 20-year anniversary of Revenge of the Sith, and as of now, the release year of our next Star Wars film. So that's going to be a lot of stuff to celebrate, and I'm sure we'll get Mando season 4 is probably going to drop around that time, or season 5, who knows, and a couple other shows that are coming down the pipeline. So it's gonna be a fun celebration that hopefully I'll be able to go to, because hopefully it'll be in a place that everyone can go to. I'm still bummed that you couldn't go to the one in England.
I'm so annoyed about that. But what are you gonna do?
I thought you would be the man on location for us, but
I'm reporting here live from Celebration for For the Republic. Yeah, sadly not, but there's always 2025.
We would have done it, but yeah, there's always 2025. But yeah, we cut now to a New Republic base, and we get to see Carson Teva again, which is cool. I love his character, and I love
there's
how
a load
his
of cool
actor
cameos as well.
So, like, I love how much he loves Star Wars.
Paul. Sorry, you say his name. I
don't remember. His name. Is it Su Young Lee? I think. Yeah, Su Young Lee. Yeah, that's his name. He was on Kim's Convenience, which I hear is really funny. So, but I love just like how he was like used to cosplay as rebel pilots, and now he's literally in Star Wars. It's so awesome. But I know we got in the background of this, we got to see Deborah Chow, Dave Filoni, Rick Famuyiwa, like all of the directors popped up as their like X-Wing pilot characters.
Yeah, that was so cool.
I thought it was time to retire Trapper Wolf, but if he's not going to be like a main character, I guess I'm fine with it. Now just do that with Paz Vizsla, even though Favreau's not playing him anymore. I'm sick of him. I don't like him. Get rid of him.
Like I love that Trapper Wolf had the textbook, the telltale Dave Filoni hat, just so you knew it was him. And obviously, yeah, like seeing Deborah Chow, after all the awesome stuff she did with Obi-Wan Kenobi, that was really cool. So yeah, Paul Sun Hyung Lee, I'm pronouncing that right, that's his name. I totally agree with you, Andrew. I love that he's such a fan of this, and it's so cool to see him actually get such a what's turning out to be a key role in these ongoing series, like with I might add, a smoking hot jacket. That jacket looked
that jacket is
fire.
Awesome. That New
was
Republic
so cool.
Jacket. Give me that now. Make that a thing that they sell at like the parks, because I will totally get it.
Also, got to mention the sweet alien jazz that plays. I would listen to that on a freaking loop. I love it. It had like Fallen Order vibes. I just love when Star Wars has like the weird alien kind of
every
music.
time we
just-
get a new weird alien song, I'm a huge fan of it. Like Andor opened with one. We got one in Nyamos. And then, of course, there's just so many different ones over time. The one Chicken in the Pot and Solo is still probably my favorite, but there's a bunch. But we've been tiptoeing around the one cameo that we have, and this time I think we can actually use the word cameo because it was just a quick scene. We can use the term correctly. But Zeb Aurelios was here. I lost my mind because I watched Mando first and then Bad Batch second. I probably should have reversed it so I could have had like the lift me up after losing someone near.
I did the opposite.
Oh yeah, that's probably what I should have done. But
I had like a delayed response to it as well because like he just comes. It's the fact that he just comes in so casually and just sits down next to Carson Teva, and I was like, oh shit, that's cool. Lasat. We've never had Lasats in live action. He looks great. And then he started talking, and I was like, is that Zeb?
It still took me a second because I was like, oh cool, Lasat pilot. That's awesome. And I was like, oh, he's voiced by Steve Blum too. Like that's
the legend that is Steve Blum.
And I was like, no. And then in the credits, Steve Blum credited as Zeb, and I'm like, yes. First of all,
happy to see
I gotta
him.
say, I was very worried of how Zeb was going to translate to live action if they're even going to try it, because, like you said, I don't think we've had a Lasat in live action before. I think it's exclusively been in animation and the games.
Yeah, not unless you count Fallen Order, but that was
that's
the
the closest
video
we
game.
had.
So.
But I thought he looked great. I thought in terms of the animation to live action translations, it's, if we're counting like Quizzy and the Fifth Brother and characters like that, I would say he's my favorite so far. And I'm now even more excited for the Ahsoka series because this just proves to me that he's gonna show up. And I'm just wondering, where's Callus? Where's Hot Callus? Guys, come on. Like, you can't have Zeb without the other. But no, I got so excited. And the fact that he's a pilot now, I love it. I don't know if this conflicts with, should he still be on Lyrasan at this point? But like the epilogue, they never really said like when that was. So I'm okay with it. And of course, he could still be a New Republic pilot and still like live on Lyrasan. I don't think it's going to take away from Rebels. And Dave has been really good. This more than I was even expecting with like the animated to live action characters, because I've had my critiques about Ahsoka feeling kind of like a different character in live action compared to animation. Rosario Dawson, just nothing against her, but it's just the way she portrays the character as like more like muted and subdued. It doesn't like animated Ahsoka is so energetic and peppy that that's a bit different for me. But like they've nailed Bo-Katan so much in this season, and I really like, say what you will about how the Grand Inquisitor looked, but I really liked how the Inquisitors were adapted in Obi-Wan. So
Jedi's compassion is his undoing.
And the Fifth Brother's just constant like state of being done with Reva's shit is just my favorite sister. God damn it. It's just my
Vader
favorite
says
thing.
it's my go on the Xbox.
Yeah, I loved that. So hopefully this is just a sign of things to come with more Zeb. But just a quick like scene, Zeb talking to Carson Teva. It's a shame about Nevarro. I'm like, oh,
I thought Navarro was gonna make it.
I just needed a Carabast. Like we need one.
It's coming
in Ahsoka. Like
we need him to say Carabast, and I need him to like bang a couple of bucket heads together, just once, just like smash a couple of stormtroopers heads together. Like it's so cool to see Zeb, like you said. Like it's just, he looked amazing, and it was it's this, I will definitely say, as you said, is a cameo, because it's inoffensive. It goes on for like a couple of minutes, and it's there more to just help Carson Teva have, like, he's got a pal there to talk to, and it just makes Carson Teva look cooler because hey, he's buds with Zeb. So this guy must be legit for him to be buds with Zeb. And
it's like if anyone is still calling Bo-Katan a cameo, I'm like, dude, she's literally like the main character of the
literally
season.
credited in starring. So
you can't call her a cameo still at this point. But it was a really cool scene, and it fit the bill of a cameo. To like, if you don't know who Zeb is, it's not distracting. You're just like, oh, that's a cool looking alien species that Carson Teva is talking to. We know this character. And then you'll be like, oh, cool, he's showing up in Ahsoka. And then you can find out that he was in Rebels, which, by the way, watch Rebels. It's fantastic. When we get to it in like 8 years, it's going to be a great time. Because then the running joke will be how long it takes for us to finish that series after we're done with Clone Wars. But again, now we cut back to Coruscant, and it was great to keep seeing more of Coruscant. We get to see Carson Teva with his jacket looking dapper as hell going into this New Republic base, and we get to see Elia Kane again. I haven't forgiven you with what you did to Connor a couple weeks ago, Elia.
God damn it, Elia.
You're blending in there, looking all suspicious and shit. Like, you're clearly working for Gideon, but who knows? We learn more about him later on in the episode, at the very end. So,
and like we said, there's that interesting whole. It's interesting how she just sort of like sneaks into the conversation and sort of subtly steers that New Republic officer who's talking to Carson Teva, it was a really good scene because it's like the guy's not evil. He's just like, he's just fallen into corruption into corruption because he winds up just not prioritizing it, and it's really cool because I feel like with this series it's really setting into motion how Filoni and the other creators on the Mandalorian and these other shows, they're doing for the sequels what they did for the prequels and the original trilogy.
They're retconning them. That's what I've been told.
Exactly. They're retconning the sequels, and they're making sure that they'll make sure that there's no bricks. There's no bricks and politics in Star Wars ever again.
Ever, no bricks. Nothing. I'm this close to saying that the New Republic deserved it because they suck, man. They suck. It's not like I'm not rooting for the First Order, but like there's gonna come a point after like we're done with all these Mandoverse things where I watch Ozzy and Prime explode and be like, I mean, like they asked for it. Like it's just
I think it's interesting.
It's just the Empire with a new coat of paint. It's not like we talk about how corrupt and flawed the Galactic Republic was during the Clone Wars. New Republic's like, let's find a way to make it worse somehow. Like we're gonna keep using Imperial technology. We're still going to refer to the amnesty program individuals as numbers, which we were like, no, hold on, no, we're not about that. We're not about that.
We're going to decommission the Alliance fleet.
Decommission the Alliance fleet. So leaving yourself open to stuff. It's just, again, like
and just let people like Gorian Shard just like flourish in the Outer Rim, which is something I was going to talk about because like Carson Teva definitely he wants to prioritize the Outer Rim, and this to me feels like something they were probably going to tackle in Rangers of the New Republic. But I like how they've integrated it here because they've managed to make it feel kind of seamless that Carson Teva's story kind of links up with Mando, with Din and Bo-Katan.
And like I mentioned,
I do wonder. Sorry, you go.
I was just going to say, as I brought up, I think I brought this up 2 weeks ago, that I'm wondering if Elia Kane was meant to be the main antagonist of Rangers, and now they're kind of bringing her story into Mando. But we'll see.
That's an interesting thought.
Yeah. So what were you going to say?
So I was going to kind of say that, like, Carson Teva, what he says about, there's something getting dangerous out there, and he's obviously referring, like, hinting at the First Order without even knowing that he's doing it, because obviously, yes, by the time the New Republic starts to notice the threat out there, it's going to be too late. It will have become the First Order, and the New Republic will have been crippled, as we see in The Force Awakens. But I almost wonder if what's going to happen with these shows is that the Outer Rim territories are going to, like, form some kind of unofficial alliance, and that's going to be, and we're going to see that also resist the First Order, and that's what helps the Resistance out later on, because, like, I kind of feel like I think there's a line in The Last Jedi when they're sending the distress signal, and there's a line that specifically says, "Oh, it will reach our allies in the Outer Rim," which tells me that the Outer Rim has become very different, because we don't know what the status of that sector of the galaxy is, that frontier area. By the time of the sequels, we have a vague sense that there's criminal cartels around there still, but the big ones like the Pikes and the Hutts have, like, faded in power. And we know that Boba Fett has already, he's already kind of brought peace to Tatooine, and he's potentially gonna wind up doing, tackling more criminal outfits. That could potentially be a second season of Book of Boba Fett there. So like, I do wonder if there's gonna if they are building up in a sense like a group of characters that we will then see sort of have to deal with the First Order, and that explains like why in the Last Jedi we go from like, it's a way of like sort of fixing the kind of seeming disparity between Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker, where like the First Order seems so dominant of everything. They seem so dominant over the galaxy, and there was so few of the Resistance left. And then we cut to Rise of Skywalker, and the Resistance is back to fighting strength, and the First Order is not. They don't have as much of a stranglehold as it looks, and they're having to like go and take a loan from their wrinkly old granddad in order to like.
It's like the Resistance obviously was still outnumbered because there had to be sorry, I'm just struggling here. There had to be that there's more of us scene at the end during the Battle of Exegol, because they were still struggling with the fact that no one came during Crate. And I think that's interesting. I think you're actually onto something, that they would form some kind of independent like alliance together. But again, I'm just so frustrated by, I mean, Tim Meadows, like he's cool and all, but like I'm frustrated by this fucking guy. Because again, even as we see in the Clone Wars, even if it was a neutral system not allied with the Republic, if they're in danger, we would see them try to help them out, especially if the Separatists were the ones fucking with them. Like, we know the pirates are enemies to the New Republic. We know that they have some allegiance to the Imperial Remnant. So, again, for them to just be like, they're not in the Republic, who fucking cares? Like, I'm sure some of that happened behind the scenes during the Clone Wars and during that era of the Republic, and we just don't know about it. But for it to be just so explicitly put there that, like, hey, they don't really care. They care about who's in their system, and we don't care if you know, this one planet is just going to get taken over and destroyed because it's not in our system.
I think the one time that happened,
why the First Order rose to power so quickly. That's all I'm saying.
I think the one time that happened actually in the Clone Wars about, we're not going to get involved because they're not aligned with anyone, was Mandalore, because of what happens in season 5 with Satine and Darth Maul and all of that. That's the one time that happened.
There, and then nothing bad happened in that episode at all. Definitely not. No. Definitely not.
Nothing painful at all happened.
No,
there, like,
nothing
emotionally...
I'm still not scarred by 10 years later. That definitely didn't happen. Like I said, Star Wars animation just knows how to rip your heart out in a certain way. And just when you think that they might be done doing that, things like Plan 99 occur. But so Carson Teva's like, fuck this shit. The New Republic's not going to help. He goes, he finds the Mandalorian covert, and they're like, we got to retreat. Like, you can just tell, like, I'm still confused on, like, are they trying to portray the Children of the Watch as a good or a bad thing this season? Because it seems like it changes every episode. And so they still have, like, their ways of, like, oh, we've been found, we have to leave. And, like, Din is still, like, drinking the fucking Kool-Aid there. Like, he's like, go away. Like, even though he's like helped him out in the past, and eventually he's like, this man has helped me before. He's lying. He's telling the truth. Grief Karga is a friend, but it's still just like culty. And the Armorer in like particular, because now she's like taking a liking to Bo-Katan, and she's like letting her like walk all the ways of the Mandalore, not just hers, which
I was not expecting.
With Din, it's a huge issue, but with Bo-Katan, it's fine. Like, so, like, is she? Because I was like, okay, she's going to be the greater scope villain of the season. Now I just don't know. Now I'm just done predicting. So it's like, if it does end up being like, oh, hey, cults are good, actually, I'll be like, hold on a second. But if
I
it's
don't
like,
think they're going that way, because like it's the same way they're kind of like, I do think with the Mandalorians, the main thing, and I said this like when we covered the episode with Norhal, the last episode, that I think what they're trying to do with the Mandalorians is they're drawing a parallel with the Jedi, and how they're compromised by their insistence on these practices. Like, so they're not necessarily evil, but they're not like totally heroic either, because they're stuck in their ways with these old practices. And I think the interesting thing about you brought up about the Armorer is that she seems almost like a politician, because she's been observing Bo-Katan throughout these last 3 episodes, and seeing how she has worked alongside her fellow Mandalorians, and it's a change for Bo-Katan, because before, I feel like Bo was very kind of like, this is the way, this is how I am doing things. Like, she was very judgmental about the covert. She was very kind of dead set on doing things her way. You know, the whole reason she broke away from Maul wasn't necessarily because of like his politics. It was because he was an outsider and he killed her leader. So like, it's all been about like her way of doing things. And for the first time, I think she's had to try and integrate with other groups of Mandalorians. She's had to see things from a different perspective. And the fact that she's been able to do that so successfully, where she has not only integrated within the covert, but helped them out. Like, she helped save Paz Vizsla's kid. She coordinates this attack on Gorian Shard, and, you know, her and Din together wind up getting the Mandalorians a new home, or rather an old home, considering where they used to be in Series 1. So, like, I think the Armorer just looks at her and just goes, well, yeah, you're my best bet at, like, uniting all the Mandalorians. So, and I think it kind of shows that the Armorer has some designs on Mandalore for sure, because, like, we've learned more about all of the other Mandalorian characters. We've learned more about Bo-Katan, about, you know, we've obviously seen more of Din, and even Paz Vizsla, we've not only has he got a proper name now, but he's got a son and he's got his own kind of like code and stuff. So the Armorer is the one character we still don't know a lot about. She's still very mysterious, and I think that's definitely intentional. I feel like they're building an idea of like, they're building up to who she is. I mean, my theory is still that she was a Maul loyalist, and that's why she's so gung-ho about the whole, oh, we can't take our helmets off thing, because, like, you know, everyone would recognize who she is. But, like,
yeah, I don't remember if you were the one that said it or if I've just seen it a bunch on Twitter, but the Armorer being root cast theory, I do like.
I didn't originate that, but I've seen it on Twitter.
I was wondering if, I mean, obviously we know what Emily Swallow looks like, but I was wondering if that scene was going to lead to her also taking her helmet off.
Yes.
And just kind of showing her, like, hey, between us, this is you know who I am. I kind of fucked with your home world, and, you know, led to that red guy taking over for a bit.
Which is interesting, because it's like, who like, she could be like, because she could maybe still want to take Mandalore for herself. She could maybe view Bo-Katan as a pretender to the throne, because, hey, Maul won the throne fair and square in her eyes when he beat Pre Vizsla in combat. He, you know, Maul literally used the Mandalorians' own traditions against them and fractured their whole society as a result. So, like, maybe she could still cling to that, or maybe she just wants to keep her identity hidden, because she knows that the other Mandalorians would cast her out, because, hey, they were all, you know, their society, they were kicked off their planet by the Empire in part because of her, because the Republic had to come in and help them out with Maul, and then the Republic became the Empire, and the rest is history. So I'm just interested to see where the Armorer's story is going, but I'm fascinated with where this series has taken Bo-Katan. I'm relieved that she is not a villain. I'm so happy that she is continuing to sort of just be like a co-lead and a more heroic character alongside Din, that she is still trying to seek redemption for, like, all the shit she did during the Clone Wars and how she inadvertently brought the doom of her people and her sister and stuff. So it's her whole trajectory has been lovely to see.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed it. And this episode kind of like threw me off and then brought me back onto the whole, like, I was like, are they just dropping the whole retaking Mandalore thing, when they brought up the fact that they were going to try to settle down on Nevarro and finally be back out in the open again? But then, like we said at the end of the episode, Bo-Katan is like, I'm going to go off and I'm going to go find more people to reunite the tribes together and retake Mandalore that way. So I'm also kind of curious that Din, at least right now, isn't going with her. Like, so he's still, like, staying on Nevarro for a bit.
Yeah,
it's curious to me, but I did like this scene where they were kind of all, like, coalescing after Carson Teva showed up, and they were, like, debating on whether or not they should help out Grief Karga. First of all, I loved how the Armorer's hammer was, like, they're, like, talking.
Yeah.
Like, I get to talk now. I'm holding the hammer.
Yeah, you get the special stick, so now you can talk. Yeah,
exactly.
That whole thing.
So,
and
like,
I also have to point out Bo and Din just, like, sitting next to each other like besties, or, like, possibly more. I'm still going to push Din Bo.
I saw a couple GIFs on it when I was looking for a thumbnail for the episode, and I was just like, yeah, I know it's working for me, guys. I got to say, I like it quite a bit. Katie Sackhoff taking the helmet off this episode makes me think that, okay, so she was actually on set for this one. Got it. Because in my whole time I'm thinking like chapter, was it 19? Where they had the helmet on the whole time. I was like, okay, so Pedro Pascal and Katie Sackhoff weren't on set for this week. Got it. That was my thing. But I like how they came to it, and I was very surprised that it was actually Paz that was the one that like kind of rallied everyone into helping out Din, because it's like they were enemies. And I hate this fucking guy, but you know, he saved my son, and we are Mandalorians, so we should fight. And I'm like, okay, this is getting me pumped up. So then when we get to see the fight on Nevarro and get to see all the different Mandalorian armors and people fighting, it was so cool. I had my critiques early on in the season that I thought they just kind of looked like fan made like cosplays at points. But seeing them in action this week, I really liked them. I liked how there were a bunch of different cool ones. There are some that look like characters we've seen before. Like there was one in Nevarro that was fighting, I think it was another like female Mandalorian. And in the trailer, I was like, that kind of looks like Sabine's armor. But I think it's just the shape of the helmet is what got me, because it definitely isn't.
I've got to point out the hilarious kind of moment where like we kind of skipped over Carson Teva saying, oh yeah, because there's the whole question of like, how did he find Din? And he's like, oh yes, one among you served with me in the rebellion. And then R5 just ruddles out, because like I thought for a second, wait, is Sabine there as like a spy? Is this just going to be like a Rebels fest of characters? And then R5 trundles out. I was like, oh, of course.
I didn't even blink when that happened, because I was like, in my mind, I was like, Bo-Katan ? Like because of the Mandalore arc in Rebels. But then R5 shows up. I'm like, oh yeah, Pelly did say he was a rebellion hero, and we thought that might have been just her like blowing smoke up Din's ass. But I guess there's some truth after all.
You weren't lying.
Exactly. But yeah,
you said about Paz. You said about Paz as well. Like that he really buried the lead there with what he was saying.
Yeah.
Like I thought, oh no.
I have my disagreements with this guy.
Yeah, but I did love his speech. It was very rousing how he just kind of like he supported Din and Bo, and I feel like that's kind of like making the point that these Mandalorians, you know, they may have been stuck in their ways, but they have potential to grow beyond what they are. Like, you know, we see that Paz is kind of maybe heading for a redemption of sorts. You know how like, you know, he sees Bo-Katan with her helmet off at the end of the episode, and he just sort of accepts it. I mean, he kind of turns to Din and says, hey, you didn't tell me she was a fox under there.
Oh God!
Like Din's like, I know, right?
Din loses out on Bo to Paz Vizsla. That's when we'll be like, I don't like this. It's like,
I wish I could claim credit for that joke, but it was
your
a tweet.
Father, cousin, brother. It's still unclear at this point what the relation is between Free and Paz Vizsla.
Given that Katie Sackhoff has said that like Bo-Katan is a lot younger than we thought, it makes Pre Vizsla look kind of borderline creepy for like, but it kind of makes you kind of think like all of them. Like, do you reckon all of the Death Watch people were just like these? It's like the Shredder in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles film in the 90s, where it's like they're all disaffected Mandalorian youths who he has kind of like swayed into his extremist thing. Oh, you know, it's kind of like it's a thing where it's like, oh yes, the outside, the Mandalorian society rejects you and your desire for like tradition. So like, come and join me.
I can see it. I mean, it's very extremist cultish, is just recruiting the younger Mandalorians that are more easily swayed. And then we have like, wasn't Lux Bonteri briefly with them too? So we have like
he did.
He
was allied with them briefly.
It is adding up, because he was a
Bo-Katan's first appearance.
Ahsoka's age.
That was her first appearance, wasn't it? Yeah.
I think so. Because I don't think she was there right off the bat when Death Watch was introduced. I think she didn't come in until like season 3 or 4. I want to say.
I believe it's season 4, because I think they skip out season 3. They only appear in season 2, and then like Pre Vizsla has like the Tintin style hair, and then like you see him in season 4, he's a lot bald. Scarier looking, with the bald patch and the scar. And Bo-Katan, she made her first appearance in that, but she was helmeted for the whole appearance. And you know, I just think it's really funny that one of the first things she does in the show is just smack Ahsoka on the bottom, like, little skinny, isn't she? Like, it's just so hilarious.
Yeah, Ahsoka's gonna have to get her back for that during the Ahsoka show. or during
I would not
the season,
complain.
who knows? Yeah, just like that's for that on Mandalore. But now we can cut back to the Nevarro battle because this again was so cool. I'm like, okay, we've had a lot less what's it called, Darksaber in this season than I was expecting so far. But I'll let it slide because Din was in the N1 for like the entirety of this. So it was so cool to see Din and Bo in the air. Which again, just seeing the Mando Gauntlet like in live action, it still is shocking to me.
And all the Mandos like dropping out of the bay doors. It was just so cool. I was literally
so cool.
Like my inner 12-year-old was like doing flips because I was like,
So many Mandos. This is amazing.
Yeah.
Like,
and I just think it shows like the power of not only this covert but Mandalorians in general, that like the two characters that we've been following so far aren't involved with this ground help like at all.
Yeah,
they're just in the air, and like all the other faceless ones that we don't know, and then also Paz is down there. We're helping him out. I would have loved a quick cutaway to Paz's what is his son's name again?
Ragnar. Yeah,
Ragnar. Just him, just taking out a couple
with like a turret or something.
That would have been so cool. The Anzellans helping out. Them just like grabbing the pirates and just
smacking a raider in the head like with a hammer or something, like the little hammers. Great. That would have been hilarious. Yeah, and like I've had my issues with Paz, but I won't deny, he did come in like a badass with giant gun,
so cool.
Just like
him,
so
just
cool.
Yeah, it looked straight out of like, well, it was very Dash the Destroyer. I quite liked it. Or Rocket and Groot. And I'm getting my. It was straight out of Guardians of the Galaxy is what I'm trying to say. Or what's his name? What is it? The Carl Urban in Thor Ragnarok when he's got the guns at the end.
Yeah,
sacrificing himself.
Behold my stuff. Pick these up out of a place in Midgard called Texas. I call them Des and Troy because when you put them together, they destroy.
You had one job, just the one. Just the one. God, I could watch that movie every day for the rest of my life, and I wouldn't.
Thor Ragnarok is quality Marvel, top to bottom for me.
Yep.
Yeah.
But this is the Mandalorian. So getting
it's a podcast about Star Wars shows.
It's a podcast about Star Wars shows, not Taika Waititi's Thor Ragnarok. But I did love how the Mandalorians rallied together in this fight. Getting to see them again, Din taking out the pirates in the N1. It will never not be cool to me.
Loved it.
I was again just pretty shocked of how. Well, first of all, before I bring up how quick I was shocked that they took out Dorian Shard, like his whole ship. But I did love like the little bits of it that had the little turret guns that are controlled by the other pirates. I just thought it was a really cool design for the ship. But then Vane, he's like, all right, it's been a pleasure serving you, Captain, and then just dips. I'm like, you freaking
little weasel
bastard.
You you noseless coward.
Again, that because when I first saw his design, I was like, but like the more and more I've seen it, the more I'm like, no, I really like it. It looks really cool. And Dorian Shard, like it's off-putting, and it's definitely different than anything we've seen before. But I love it. It's just it's like it embodies the whole George Lucas's thing of saying like we're gonna have all these weird aliens in Star Wars, but the beauty of it is we're just gonna pretend like it's just like that's just normal. Like we don't have to take the time to be like, what the hell happened to you or something, like, because then it just it's not the same universe. Like
exactly.
So again, it works. It's very Star Warsy to me, and well, I guess R.I.P. to Dorian Shard because he is he's left us.
He was a petty bitch though as well. I loved that. I kind of liked that he was so over the top that like he couldn't even just retreat. He had to just try and like take out the villagers purely out of spite, even though he would have just been killed anyway. Like, and I also loved that he had that phrase in a puff of pig's eye. It's like, you know what?
Yeah.
Pretty good, a good reference, but also Gorian Shard, good baddie. Yeah. He was a good villain. He served his purpose really well. I also love that
that he's
His
not going to
pirate
be.
group. Yeah.
I was just gonna say I'm kind of bummed he's not in Skeleton Crew, assuming that it's not before here. But
It
I mean,
could
we
be.
brought up Vane. We brought up Vane being like just showing up and everything. If he's like the main, like if he develops his own crew, I could see that being a possibility.
Yeah,
But what were you?
that would be a possibility.
What were you gonna say?
I was just gonna. What was I gonna say?
Something about his
about
crew.
his crew. Yeah, I loved that his crew was like a who's who of all the bad Star Wars aliens. Like,
Yeah.
you could literally play like bingo, Star Wars alien bingo with that. There was a fucking Trandoshan. There was
There's
like
a Quarren,
Niktos. There's a Quarren.
Nikto.
There's a freaking Weequay. There's like all of them there.
Yep.
They're like, it was brilliant. Yeah, it
I'm
was
trying to
just-
think of when was the last time we saw a good Quarren in Star Wars.
Never.
Like it's always
I think just one.
maybe in the High Republic.
I think
but I
one
can't think
good
of
Quarren in the Clone Wars, like who was being, like because the Quarrens I think are getting pushed by Rift Tamsin, who I'd love to see one of Rift Tamsin's species show up in the Mandalorian. I feel
that
like
would be so cool.
I feel like they're building that to that.
They do a lot of like weird hybrid, like shark, crab, turtle hybrid things. So it
There was the
could definitely
warthog
work.
alien. I loved the warthog alien with his like who had just a warthog face. I love when they just have aliens that are just like
That are
the
just
faces
like-
of other
yeah.
animals. Like they had the raptor headed dude from Obi-Wan, and now you've got the warthog face who just looks brilliant. That's definite new glup shitto for me. I hope that we see more of those. Oh, and the Klatooinians. I had to point out the Klatooinians. There we go. Every bad Star Wars alien is in his crew.
It's like what do we got here? It's like let's just go through them, and it's
Like
never.
he just got a charter and went like, I need Weequays, I need Klatooinians, I need Trandoshans. It won't make them. I need to collect all the bad Star Wars aliens for my crew. Yes,
Exactly. And what we need to do now is we need to have like a crew show up in either like Mando or one of the animated shows where it consists of all the bad Star Wars aliens. So we're like, we don't trust them. But then they just end up to be like just like a really wholesome group. But like everyone's just like, man, everyone thinks we're threatening because it's all
it's like Finding Nemo, where they all just like sit around and talk about how like the negative stereotypes of their species.
Get Willem
You're
Dafoe
like-
to voice.
It's like,
Hey, so my name's Finn, and I'm a Nikto, and I want to talk about how like
oh, actually no, that I can't say Finn.
my name's Trevor, and I'm a Nikto, and I gotta talk about how Niktos are treated. Because I don't think it's right.
We at least have a good Nikto in Resistance. He's one of
That's
the main
true.
protagonists.
I've seen him. Yes,
But they color him. He's green and but then there is because he gets a pseudo love interest in one episode. Why am I Niku? I was like, why am I forgetting his name? I watched this whole show as it came out.
Niku's
And
a
then-
Nikto. I didn't know
believe
he
he
was
is.
a Nikto.
Yeah, I believe
Holy
he is
shit.
Nikto. But he's designed a
Good
bit
for him.
different. And he's got the one episode where like he thinks he has a love interest, but then she ends up being a mole for the First Order. So it's like fuck. I guess yeah. Oh wait, is he? Yeah, he's a Nikto. So
Oh my god!
So-
way to misread the room, Nico.
no, come on. It got me because I'm like, oh, this is really cute, and then they end
that's
up
brutal.
she ends up being
Oh.
a mole. I'm like, you motherfuckers.
Oh my god!
But yeah, no, shout out Pirate Crews and Star Wars for always just consisting of like the chart of every bad alien. We got to find a way to fix that. Get an Ewok in there or something.
Get
Get
like
Nubs.
get like an evil, or do what the Nile did and have like an evil freaking Gungan who's like deranged. Have more wet bubs in Star Wars, please.
The Nile's like that too. They got all the freaking bad aliens too. They got what's his name? He's the same species as Malegi, I think.
Oh yes, the Duotan, Panator.
Duotan.
Yeah, that big guy.
Yeah. They're like a new addition to the bad Star Wars aliens.
That's the
So
only one that Gorian Shard's crew was missing. A Duotan, yeah.
Get a Duotan in there.
Could have done with a couple of them as well, because those guys are really handy in a scrap, I imagine.
They probably
One of them could
still
have
have
taken past.
the costume from Maz's castle from The Force Awakens, so they can just modify it. But I love, like I said, the scene that we had with the Armorer and Bo after this whole fight.
Yeah,
That was really cool. I like that we were back in her like little hideaway thing from the first season. It was really cool to kind of like return to those familiar areas that we haven't seen now in 2 seasons.
Yeah.
Because I just kind of forgot that the Armorer wasn't in season 2 at all. Like that just because she showed back up in Book of Boba Fett, and I guess because it had been like a year or so in between Mando season 2 and Book of Boba, that I was just like, yeah, she was in season 2, right? And then like, no, she wasn't. So it was cool to have her back. And like again, when she was like, remove your helmet, I was like, I'm sorry, what? Like, who are you? Like, and then it was a really cool scene. I like that we have this settlement now on Nevarro, although if Pabu has taught me anything, probably not gonna last very long.
Like I
then,
think Carson Teva was definitely kind of suggesting the Gorian Shards pirates were acquainted with the Imperial Remnant, and though we didn't see anything with Gorian Shard, it's possible that Vane could have some Imperial connections, and that's the significance in him getting away. Because we know that there were still Imperial moles on Nevarro, because we saw them in season 2. You know, like there was that one little creepy dude who like ratted Din out, put the tracker on the Razor Crest so that Moff Gideon could pursue him and eventually capture Grogu. So I'll be interested to see where that's going. But I agree with what you said about the Armorer. I was not expecting her to ask that of Bo-Katan. Again, this is kind of like muddying the waters with what the Armorer actually is interested, like what her aims are, what her goals are. She's definitely an enigma, but I did like that she fought on the ground with the other Mandalorians, how she took out those. It was very cool watching her like take out those pirates with the turret and who were pinning the Mando squad down. That was a good scene.
So Bo leaves, and I'm wondering if next week is going to be mainly a Bo centric episode. Looking at who's directing it, I can already tell it's going to be my favorite episode of the season because it's Bryce Dallas Howard, aka has never missed with Star Wars so far. So I'm very excited. Like if that's going to be Sabine or Ahsoka or Hera, I will be very excited. But probably Sabine.
There is that settlement in the trailer. We've seen that that kind of bubble slight settlement that seems very similar to like Sundari in the other city. So possibly she could go and visit a Mandalorian settlement and possibly meet Sabine or maybe Fen Rao. There's been that rumor that Kevin McKidd. Yeah.
If you really want to blow our minds, give me Michelle Yeoh as Ursa Wren, and I will. If anyone can make it happen, it's Bryce.
Do it.
Just do it. It makes all the sense in the world. Perfect casting.
I'd love to see Michelle Yeoh in Mandalorian armor. Just do it, Lucasfilm. It will be everyone will celebrate.
Sabine is my favorite character from Rebels, so I will be very excited to see her show up in live action. And I'm gonna miss Tia Sakar, obviously, but I'm really excited to see what Natasha Liu Bordizio does with the role.
Same.
So I'm hoping that we get to see her a little bit in Mando before she's gonna have a huge role in Ahsoka. We assume. But we get to the stinger bit of the episode. We get Carson Teva back just floating through space. And my mind immediately went to, and this was before I even watched Bad Batch, but, my mind is fucked. I'm like, okay, he's going to die. Like, he's someone to come in.
Yeah.
And he's not going to make it out of him looking through the ship. They find an abandoned...
Lambda
it wasn't Lambda shuttle. It wasn't Imperial shuttle. Now I guess what, a New Republic shuttle. Like
interesting that they're using the Lambda shuttles. I mean, why wouldn't you? They're really cool. But it's again, we're seeing that they're using Imperial tech. But I suppose it's a little different. I suppose because they did use Imperial tech before. They literally used a Lambda shuttle to infiltrate Endor, even though it sort of didn't work.
I forgot. Were they a thing in the Clone Wars, or was that because I know there was one at the end of Revenge of the Sith, but was that the first time we saw one?
Well, there's the Jedi shuttles. There's the Jedi shuttles that have a very similar design with the kind of like triangle design with the wings. But I don't think there's any Lambda type shuttles in the Clone Wars. I think it's just the Jedi shuttles, either the ones with the 3 wings or the ones with the nice kind of like rotating fin, which is very likely going to show up in Ahsoka.
Clone Wars episodes.
We've seen them do a new model of that at Star Wars Celebration last year that looked very much built for live action. So I'm very expecting to see a Jedi cruiser because, Ahsoka has one. She flew it to Sabine at the end of Rebels, and we know that that because there's the rumors about a time jump in Ahsoka where the first half of the season is going to be exploring what she did during the original trilogy, and then the second half is where we sync up with the Rebels two-parter, the Rebels finale, sorry, and she meets up with Sabine and they go hunting for Ezra. I mean, it could be that they do something like Book of Boba Fett, where that whole sequence is like where it's like split in half, you know, half of it's flashbacks, half of it's present day. But who knows? But like the whole
Do
sequence.
we know how many episodes Ahsoka's going to be?
I think it's going to be 8, same as Mandalorian, because like those shows have been planned out a bit more. Because I think the Book of Boba Fett was a bit more last minute, because like they didn't even tell Lucasfilm that they were working on it. They just sort of pitched it as they finished Mando season 2. But I think the whole sequence here is interesting with the Lambda shuttle, like where, you know, he investigates with the neat little astromech probe that pops out of his R7 droid's head, and then you see the little glint of Beskar steel, and then like the voiceover, who I believe is the actor who played Luke in who was the physical double for Luke during the season 2 finale, and he also appeared in chapter 5 of Book of Boba Fett as one of the X-Wing pilots. He says, "Oh, wait, you're telling me Moff Gideon was taken by Mandalorians?" So, like, what are your thoughts about that, Andrew? Like, do you think
I don't know
frame-up job? I have a theory.
I mean, I think one of two things is the case. Either A, like there's the rumor that the Dark Troopers were made of Beskar, and it was like, oh, Elia Kane getting Gideon out of there. Or B, there is a mole in Din's covert, and I think it could be either Paz or the Armorer.
On me. That would be fascinating.
So
I
was wondering because you know what I think would be cool is if they use the whole remove, like you can't remove your helmet against the covert themselves, and like we have like Gideon hiding in plain sight amongst them this
Holy
whole time,
shit!
and they don't
that would be
it.
a twist. Oh my god! Like, yeah,
the
he's
whole
just there
Among Us. Just, you know,
that would blow. Okay, if you've called that and he's there the whole time and he's just like he's hiding as a Mandalorian, like, okay, that's such a genius twist. That they should do that anyway. They should just have someone as a mole there, and because like, of course, what a perfect way to like show how the rule is stupid and doesn't help the Mandalorians anymore by having literally someone infiltrate, and they don't know because the guy is. I mean, you could literally have him infiltrate the covert as a Mandalorian, like as killing a Mandalorian and just taking his identity, and they'll just assume it's the same guy. That would be wild. I really want to see that happen now.
I think if they don't do it with Gideon, they should definitely do it in the future with another character, because I think it would work so cool.
It really would. That's genius that you just come up with that. I love that. My theory is that I think it's super. My theory is that I think it's Imperial Super Commandos, because like we've had the whole there's those leaked images that show like the red helmets that look kind of like Praetorian Guards but also like Mandalorians. So I think, you know, we had the whole thing in Rebels about the loyalist, the Imperial loyalist Mandos. You know, even after Gar Saxon got taken out, the rest of his clan just carried on fighting with the Empire. So I feel like, you know, it just makes sense. You know, we've had Dark Troopers, we've had the Imperial Remnant, but I feel like a really easy sell to the audience, to an audience who's just generally familiar with the films and stuff and just watches the live action shows is, oh, here's a bunch of bad Mandalorians. Like, I feel like that's an easy sell, and it makes they feel like a threat in their own right, because we've seen what Mandalorians can do. So having bad Mandalorians that work with the Empire just makes sense, really, as a new threat for Din and the others to deal with. And I kind of like the thought of like Dave Filoni and crew also kind of like just making this little adjustment to canon that, oh yeah, the Praetorian Guards, the early idea for the Praetorian Guards was actually Imperial Loyalist Mando. So like it just kind of puts the thing in my head that, oh, during The Last Jedi, Rey and Kylo were fighting a bunch of former Mandalorians as the Praetorian Guards, which would just be a really cool addition to the canon for sure.
Yeah, and I think it would help with the blending of, because I do think by the end of this season, we're going to start seeing the early blossomings of the First Order. So I think to get that transition from Remnant to First Order, because they're still calling it like, oh yeah, the Empire is still out there. Like at one point,
Yeah.
like it's got to transition to, wait, no, we got a cool new name now. We're the First Order, and then boom, there we
the
go.
Empire's for losers. We're called the First Order now. Get
the
with
First
it.
Order. We got the same tech, same stuff, everything, but different name, different thing.
Different
But
name.
no,
It's totally different.
it would be really cool. Like if we have two shows that are kind of showing transitions of Imperial rule, Bad Batch, obviously with the Republic to the Empire, and then the Mandoverse from the Imperial Remnant to the First Order, and also the fall of the New Republic. But remember, guys, they're decanonizing the sequels. They're being retconned. All this cloning shit that they're setting up in like 3 different shows right now, it's got nothing to do with them. No.
Every new episode of Star Wars just makes me laugh all the more at that whole plurality of people who were just so insistent that the sequels were going to be decanonized. Like every episode we're seeing is just laying the foundation more and more for the sequels, and if anything, kind of strengthening the story.
I
And I just
saw
love it.
a TikTok comment earlier today that really pissed me off because it was talking about the Keller and Beck stuff from last week, which again, I did my own little tidbit for that last week, but it was
Don't screw with my man Ahmed
so
Best.
fantastic. But it was
my
like,
guy.
oh yeah, Ahmed Best deserves the retribution or the redemption or to have his moment, but Kelly Marie Tran and the sequel cast don't, because they ruined those movies. I'm like, you are literally doing the exact same fucking thing that caused Ahmed and Jake Lloyd and Ewan and Hayden and all these people to not want to be a part of the franchise for years. And I love that you don't see an issue with it, or you're acting like it's not a problem because, oh, I like these movies and I don't like these other ones. Like, shut the fuck up. Like, literally, I am certain that every single person that is rightfully celebrating Ahmed Best return to Star Wars isn't a huge fan of Jar Jar Binks. I'm not. I like Jar Jar fine, but I love Ahmed Best as a person. So I'm rooting for it. And even if I didn't like the character of Rose, or if I didn't like elements of the sequels, which there are some stuff I don't, I would want them to have their moment in the sun, or to come back, because that's the beauty of Star Wars. And literally, if you're just going to keep doing the same fucking thing, but you're like, oh, I don't have an issue with it this time because I don't like those movies. Like, shut the fuck up. Like, that's why I am so, and again, we're a week away, and I still think it's happening, that if we get to see Daisy coming back, I am so here for it, because regardless of if you didn't like the sequels or if you loved the sequels, it's going to be cool having the character come back, and maybe this time around you'll like her more. Who knows? Rey's always been one of my favorite. If you can't fucking tell, Rey's always been one of my favorite characters. If you're just listening, you have no idea what I just did, but pretty much giant Rey poster in the background, and also a bunch of other stuff.
An awesome poster, I will add.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. But I'm gonna second everything you just said.
That's
about
just
that,
my little heated debate thing. So stop using one good thing to twist it into your shit narrative, because you're literally doing the exact same shit. And the people that act like prequel hate didn't happen, like, I lived through it for 20 goddamn years. It happened.
Exactly.
You couldn't go, like, the lead to The Force Awakens, as wonderful as it was, every little thing about it was, it's got to be better than the prequels. Like, this was so much, like, The Force Awakens, I love the movie. It's my 3rd favorite Star Wars movie, and I'm sorry to keep talking here, but it literally opens with the first line of the film is, "This will begin to make things right." Like, what do you think they're referring to? The J.J. Abrams again. I like what he did with The Force Awakens, and I'm bringing this up in the video essay I'm working on, which I am still working on it. It's just I haven't recorded. I'm just in the editing process. It's been a busy week. It'll come out soon. But the man literally said, "Oh yeah, people are gonna love this. I was gonna put Jar Jar's bones in Jakku, and people would have loved it, but I decided against it." I'm like,
he wanted to blow up Coruscant. I'm so glad that you got talked out of both options, because like
it was literally all a big middle finger to the prequels, and we need to make sure. And that's why I'm glad that Bad Batch and Mandoverse, like, regardless of what you think of the sequels, or regardless of what the people working on the shows think of the sequels, they can't just ignore it, and they have to keep building off of the stuff to whether it's improving some stuff that you didn't really like in Rise of Skywalker, or whether it's just adding to it. You can't just like do a certain narrative thing to just give a big middle finger to something else that happened before. Like that's when you run into the problems that these other franchises have had of constantly needing to course correct or constantly needing to be like, well, we have to erase this. Like you have to just keep like, if you're going to have one concise canon, you can't just do shit to fuck with other stuff you didn't like. Like if Mando season 3 was just like, everything that happened in season 2, nah, forget it. Like we're gonna like the entire season is gonna be basically to be like, no, fuck you. Like it's just it would be so stupid. Or if the Obi-Wan show was like created in a way where it was still super negative towards the prequels, I would be so like again, you can't do that. And this just turned into a weird rant that has nothing to do with the episode, but I don't even remember what triggered it, but I saw something and it just made me mad. So stop being shitty.
Yeah,
like we're better than this. We can't celebrate how great it is to have Ahmed Best back and be like, oh, but that shit that we did to Ahmed, we're gonna do to other people. It's like you do realize why he didn't want to come back to Star Wars, right? It was because of the treatment that you're giving these other people. Stop it. I thought we were past this. I thought we were done with this.
Exactly. It's what makes this whole, like, it's what's so lovely about seeing all of the prequel stuff now is that, you know, we are seeing this stuff finally get its due. And it would be awful if that happened with the sequels, because one would argue part of the thing that caused some problems for the sequels is the fact that they didn't acknowledge the prequels straight up, and that didn't play as much of a role. Like, you know, some people don't like that there's the political situation in the it's barely mentioned. It's like the whole setup is confusing because they didn't want to acknowledge the politics, because everyone like so many people whinged about the politics in the prequels because they were trying to say it was boring, even though, you know, it's called Star Wars, war is political, you gotta have politics
we still
explored.
Need, and I'm gonna keep pushing for this, we still need either like the sequels version of the Clone Wars or just like a series set during that timeline.
Oh, I would love
it's live action or animated, because it would help
getting that.
Connect. So many times it's happening. I will literally apply to Lucasfilm and pitch the show myself. Like it's going to fucking happen. But again, one more thing. I promise the last time I'm bringing it up. No, but like the people that are like, oh, I'm my best. He never had like racist attacks. Like, where's the proof? I'm like, shut the fuck up. The man literally said he wanted to kill himself over the hate he got. Like shut the fuck. I hate the. Where's the proof that Boyega and Ahmed Best got the racist comments? They brought it up.
Yeah.
They showed the proof. Moses is 2 DMs. Shut the fuck up.
The fact that he mentioned that, and it caused barely a ripple in certain circles of like, well, I'm not going to dignify them with the response of fandom, because it's like you, McGregor said, you're not a Star Wars fan if you're going to hurl racist abuse at people. But the fact that it caused barely a ripple in those circles demonstrates just how toxic those circles of people are. Really, but
or they double down on it.
Exactly, or they double down on it. Exactly.
Now we're gonna hate this character on purpose because you woke. I'm like, shut up.
God.
God, if you were around during the original trilogy, you would have hated Leia, and don't act like you wouldn't have. You would have.
The word woke just needs to be like utterly retired. I default to what Neil Gaiman said. Like, you know, I'd love to just have like a web edition that just like changes the word woke with just being nice to people, or just being respectful of people. And because I you know, it's a whole
don't get me started on how
it's a whole other conversation.
Treated if Empire came out in 2023.
Oh my god.
Oh my god. All right.
Oh my god.
I'm moving on. So
the last thing I was going to bring up about the episode is about like speculation for the future is that I think what you said about next episode being like a Bo-Katan exclusive episode, I think that's possible, but it's also possible that we could have a cut between the perspectives of Bo and Din, where Bo is going off meeting other Mandalorians, and Din is wrapping up his whole quest with IG-11, because, you know, that hasn't been addressed and we still have the droid bar to get to. But I also think another thing that's potentially coming
Din
up
finds out that Gideon is the imposter.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
But I think the thing that is potentially coming up is Din realizing how the rules aren't serving his covert as much as he thinks they are, because we've established that Grogu is starting to try to speak. And there's that whole thing in the previous episode of Din saying he's too young to speak the creed. So I think what could happen in the next couple episodes is that Grogu could speak his first words, and it'll be both a lovely moment, but it'll also create some stakes, because suddenly now the Armorer and the other Mandos are going to be like, well, we got to put a helmet on him now because now he can take the creed. And Din's going to be like, does he have to though? Like, because he's,
like,
Bo-Katan walks both worlds. Why can't
face.
Grogu? Exactly. So I
Mhm.
feel like we could be heading for Din, maybe breaking away again from his covert and potentially helping Bo-Katan more, because I feel like those characters are everything about the way they've been shot together tells me that these two characters are now linked by their pursuits, and I feel like I don't think that's going to end now that because she's going off to recruit other Mandalorians. So I'm really excited to see where they're going, especially after your theory that you've just said about Gideon and the whole imposter thing. I'm rooting for that to come true.
This is the last time I'm going to bring up TikTok, and the last thing I'm going to say before we wrap things up. But if it is his first words, I hope it's like one I saw where it was just Grogu calling Bo-Katan Mama, and then Din's like, "All right, now call me Dada," and he's just like not having any of it. So I hope it's that.
It's like Simpsons, where Bart calls Homer, and he like, here, no, Dada, Homer.
It's perfect. But I'm going to stop penning the episode because I'm the one that is on a fucking time schedule here, and I'm going on 8-minute rants. So thank you guys for watching our discussion of Chapter 21 of The Mandalorian. If you have not already, go back and watch our Bad Batch season finale recap. We posted that today as we're recording. I'm not sure if this is going to go up on Saturday or Sunday because I'm going to have a busy night tonight. But check that out. We get very upset, and I get yelly over Sid. So it's not going to stop.
A little bit of anger towards Saw as well, I will add.
Just a little bit.
I'm not blaming him entirely, but I'm allowed to be mad at Saw. God damn it, I'm allowed to be mad at him.
All right, but yeah, I think we're gonna wrap things up. So I gotta get going, Don. So where can everyone find you?
So to summarize quickly, you can find me on Twitter at Donovan Mead, where I tweet Star Wars, Marvel, a lot of different stuff. You can find me on TikTok and Hive under the same handle at Donovan McComish. Instagram, you can find me at Donovan_McComish. And like Connor and Andrew, you can find me on sweditor.ig.com, where we post articles related to Star Wars. And we also are part of SWEF, or Star Wars Editor Fiction, which is a series of short stories and webcomics that are basically our own fan stories. We try to stay within the confines of what is considered canon in the Star Wars galaxy, although we do like to take some elements from Legends and retrofit them to our stories, because there's some cool stuff. There's some truth in Legends, as Ahsoka said. I have written one story. It came out in June last year. It is called Scars of War, and it takes place 5 years after Revenge of the Sith and stars a clone trooper named Blister who encounters a Jedi survivor of Order 66. Over to you, Andrew.
All right. As for myself, you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Starlight Andrew, same name on all platforms. You can follow the podcast on Twitter at For the Repub Pod, and on Instagram and TikTok at For the Republic Pod for updates on when the shows are coming out and stuff like that. And we also like to post some fun clips and stuff of the episodes. So check those out. Our YouTube channel, For the Republic Podcast, we are a little over halfway actually now, to our 100 sub goal of when it will be, when we can fully embrace the live content. I think we can actually do it now at 50.
Embrace the live.
But with 100, we'll be able to do it easier and just spread the word more and do more fun live content. So make sure you help us out with our goal there. And as for what's coming soon, next week is going to be Celebration Weekend. So we'll of course have some celebration pre and post celebration content. I think we're going to do a season recap of Bad Batch Season 2 next week, as opposed to our normal Clone Wars episode. I have a guest planned, and I think it's all good there. So that's probably going to come early in the week, and then we'll do a little celebration predictions thing attached to that. And of course, we'll have a big recap of the weekend events the week afterwards, once we are settled in and everything. So look forward to that. And of course, Mando recaps next week as well. Until next time, we'll see you guys later. And this is The Way.